Today is Thursday, October the 4th, 2007, and I'm at the home of Marge Creager in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And Mrs. Creager, would you tell us a little bit about when you were at OSU?
I will be happy to. Of course, I have nothing but fond memories, and I'm still an avid alum because every Sunday, if we've won a game, I wear orange and black and my big orange earrings and my watch and all is OSU on it. But if we lose, I wear all black. And they have got me going over there because I'm the only one that has the nerve to do that because we've got alumni in there from TU and OU. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, you are an avid OSU fan then.
That's right.
What year did you graduate from OSU?
1947. 1940. Oh, I was so glad because you know why? I got married just as soon as I got out of school.
Oh, you did?
Yes, June the 1st, 1947.
Mm-hmm.
And came right to Tulsa because my husband was from Tulsa and I was really a farm girl. And he always used to remind me every once in a while, I'm going to take the country out of you if it's the last thing I do.
So where did you grow up?
I grew up in northwest Oklahoma on the farm that my grandparents got in the Oklahoma Run. And then when I started high school, my daddy moved us to eastern Oklahoma, and he helped build Grand River Dam.
Oh.
And there I graduated from Ketchum High School in 1942.
Oh, you did?
And then somebody said, you need to go to college. And I said, how? My parents don't have the money. So what I did, I stayed out a whole year and worked at the Oklahoma Ordnance Work and lived in Pryor, made more money than I'd ever made in my life. I was the secretary in the chemistry lab. So when I went to college, they thought I knew so much in chemistry because I'd been around it. I really didn't. Oh, it was so hard for me. But anyway, one day I was riding to work, and the boy that I rode to work with said, you really need to go to college. And he had just finished from OSU, and he went over and talked to the Dean of Arts and Sciences, Dean Scroggs. And I want you to know, he got me a job sight unseen, and I went right over there and started to college the next year working in Dean Scroggs' office.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And I worked there for about 3 years. I really did, made $50 a month.
Oh.
So I worked 4 hours a day and went to school the other times.
Mm-hmm.
So when kids say to me, I just can't go to college, I don't have the money, I said, don't tell me that. If you want to bad enough, you can. Of course, things have changed a lot.
Yeah.
But now there are a lot more scholarships available.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the beginning of a fun time.
Did you said that your parents did not go to OSU? Did you have any other family members that went to OSU or that are at OSU?
Yeah, I do now. I had a sister that went there 1 year, and that's all she made it. I was the first one of the family that ever went to college. And now I have a granddaughter there, and of course my 3 children went there. I didn't all finish,
Mm-hmm.
but my oldest daughter did, and
Mm-hmm.
she became a teacher.
What were your first impressions of the campus at OSU? Had you been there before you actually were ready to move in and start school at all?
No, I was so excited when I moved over there. You know what? I lived in the Kappa Sig house, the boys' fraternity house. And later I lived in the Beta house. That was where I met my husband. But you know what they called them during the war?
No.
Victory halls.
Oh.
So all the girls moved into the boys' fraternity houses. And that was so much fun. And my room was about that wide. It was so little, but I didn't even care because I'd never been to college before, and I'd been to a small high school.
Mm-hmm.
So everything was exciting. It just didn't matter to me. And I didn't have many clothes anyway, so I didn't need a large closet.
Did you share your room, or did you have it all
No,
to yourself?
I had it all to myself.
Mm-hmm.
I did.
Mm-hmm.
And the Air Corps was there, and the Waves, so it didn't have any trouble for dates.
Oh. Well, did you know anyone that was at OSU when you first went?
No, I didn't. I really didn't. So it was a whole beginning for me.
Do you have any memories of particular buildings on campus?
Oh, yes, I do. I especially Murray Hall, because I did stay there for a while, because after I started dating my husband and we really decided that we were going to be engaged, he'd come over there after the hours were over, and he'd come around to my room. I was on the first floor, and he would kiss me goodnight through the screen. That was a pretty funny thing to do.
Well, yes. Well, how did you meet your husband?
Oh, I was living in the Beta House, and I was social chairman, and we had a big Christmas dance. And, of course, then we just invited boys to our house to dance. And so we just invited the football team. We thought that was a good start, and we didn't know if they'd come or not, but here they came. And we were dancing the glow worm. And that's a good mixer, And so here I get my husband to be, and he was being funny, and he says, "How about a date New Year's Eve?" Because the football team was going to the Cotton Bowl. And I said, fine, because, I was a little older than some of the girls because I'd stayed out a year, and boys didn't scare me at all. And so the band of which I played the snare drums, they were supposed to go. Well, we didn't get to go because OSU didn't have the money.
Oh.
And so when he came back, I get this call, and I thought it was a boy I'd been dating in my church. And all of a sudden he said, "I don't know if I should ask you for a date or not. You stood me up New Year's Eve." So then I knew who it was. And so, I kind of gave him a hard time, and finally I said, okay. And he paid for it ever since.
That's a good story. Did you date anyone else after you all started dating?
No, I didn't. You know how boys are. If they think somebody else has you, why, they more or less leave you alone.
Oh. So what were some of your favorite hangouts on campus or around town?
Swims. We'd go there between classes. And then what did they call the one on the corner? I've already forgotten the name of it. Up there across from the fireplace. Swims was the other one, and it was down the closer.
I heard stories about the Y Hut.
No, it wasn't the Y Hut. It was a corner drugstore. And we met there a lot, but I cannot remember the name of it. After all, it's been over 50 years.
Yes. Okay, well, what were some of the activities that you were involved in at OSU? I know you have quite a long list of things that you did there.
Well, that was something that meant a lot to me because being in a small high school, they didn't have very many organizations. Basketball was the main thing. And I started playing basketball in the 4th grade. And we had a really good team in Ketchum, Oklahoma. And we almost went to state once. Didn't quite make it. But anyway, there weren't any other organizations. So when I got to Oklahoma A&M, everything they'd asked me to join, I joined. And it was really, really fun. I got in the YWCA, and gosh, it's even hard to remember all the things I was in. Majoring in health and physical education, I got into Tulsa Korean, which was modern dance club. And I played all of the sports because I was majoring in health and physical education. Golf was the hardest because I'd never played golf in my life. Who plays golf on the farm? And my husband was a really good golfer. But I don't know. I just joined other things too. I didn't join a sorority till my junior year. And I'm glad I didn't, because by then I knew all about them and I knew which one I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really wonderful. The sorority taught me so many things. It taught me my manners. I never had been taught any manners. I mean, I guess my folks would slap my hand if I did something really wrong, but they taught you which fork to use and which spoon and when to use it and all those things. And we had prayer time in our sorority, and I thought that was nice, and I just learned a lot. And to this day, I play bridge with my college friends once a month.
Oh, that's nice. And what sorority was it?
Alpha Delta Pi. I don't need to tell you what my husband called it.
Okay. What other traditions were really fun and important to you?
Well, of course, playing in the band, I had to decide whether I wanted to be in the pep club or in the band.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to myself, well, I can play the band for a long time, maybe. And the only reason I chose the drum is that the drums were free and I didn't have the money to buy a horn.
Oh.
And so that's why I played the snare drums. And would you guess that I'm playing in a Dixieland band right now, and I have to play tonight? And we go to all the nursing homes and retirement homes, and I'm playing the trap drums.
Oh.
And I never had a lesson on the trap drum in my life, and I love it. And anyway, when we play a ball game, of course, my boyfriend played football. He was the place kicker, and they called him the man with the educated toe. And every time he'd make a goal, the band would play, and I'd get to beat the drum really loud, and everybody would look at me.
Oh.
So when I went back, like 25 years later, they asked the band, the alumni, to play in the band, and I did. I couldn't hardly carry that snare drum, and those young boys were throwing those sticks up in the air, and I did well to keep the rhythm even, and all the people in the stands were laughing at me.
Oh, they probably were. Well, have the songs changed?
Oh, yeah, they had to change the word a little bit when they became OSU,
Mm-hmm.
and so you kind of have to say OSU instead of OAMC. You did have to change a few things. And, of course, our band is much larger now, much larger and very good. And I just love to watch them play.
What kind of uniform did you have? Did the school
had to wear
uniform?
Black skirts. Our dean would not let us wear trousers. Oh, it made us so mad. Black skirts and a black top.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have the artificial turf. We'd go out there every morning at 7 in the morning and practice and hit those holes that were in the ground, the football field. It was awful.
Well, what kind of shoes would you wear? Did you have on heels?
No,
Tennis shoes?
I'd wear tennis shoes, yeah. And it was so hard. To this day, I don't like to get up early. When I retired, I said I'd never set that alarm clock again. Well, I've had to a few times when I go on a Red Cross trip, but I don't hear, and people have learned, my friends, not to call me before 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. So it's I was in the band all 4 years I was there.
Well, how were women treated at OSU then?
Well, as I say, when I first started, we were pretty much in demand because the waves were there, and the Air Corps boys didn't seem to pay much attention to the waves, and of course they had a lot of regulations they had to abide by. So they really kind of liked the girls on the campus, so we didn't have any trouble getting a date at all, and they treated us very nice, very nice, and. Then, in fact, all through school we were treated nicely. We really were.
Were the rules different for the girls?
Some of them, yes, they really were, and they were a lot more strict. A lot more strict. Now, when my granddaughter went over there last year, she had a boy living in the room next to her in the dorm. Oh my gosh, we wouldn't have thought of that one. No way.
Did you have to be in at a certain time?
At a certain time, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And what happened if you weren't?
Let me
What
see.
would they do?
What happened? You know, I can't even remember. I must have been in. I know one time I was late, and we didn't have a car, but he would borrow one from the guy that was the head of the one of the departments where they keep the records, and he'd loan him his car on the weekend for his dates. But I tell you what, we did a lot of walking, which I know now was good for us.
And you said that you majored in physical education?
Because when I went to college, I had no idea what I wanted to major in. And I was a big, strong farm girl, and I thought that was right down my alley. And it was.
Would you have majored in something different, you think, if you had known more?
Probably would. But like I say, I found my niche when I went back to get my master's.
And what was that?
Well, about 20 years later and 4 kids and working full time, I got it in guidance and counseling. And I've been using that ever since. I still work part-time.
Where do you work?
I'm working at the Christian Youth Center, and DHS sends the boys and girls there from 10 to 18. They've been put in there because their parents have mistreated them, and I'm the therapist, and I get to meet them one-on-one and talk to them, and they just spill their guts to me. I love them. They just have had, some of them, the most horrible lives. Some of the mothers nowadays start their children at the age of 3 on alcohol and drugs. You can imagine. And I read a letter a little girl wanted me to hear it one morning that she'd written. It says, "Dear Mom, why did you burn the bottom of my feet when I was a baby? I just wanted a mother to love me." And on and on and on. So, you know, it's pretty heartbreaking, some of their stories.
What do they call you, the young
Miss
people?
Marge.
Miss Marge?
That's what they call me. They were going to call me Grandma, but the staff wouldn't let them. They wouldn't, and so they had a... Creager's kind of hard for them to remember, so they all call me Miss Marge.
Well, that's wonderful.
I love it. It's a really neat job, and they just, my only paying job. They pay me by the hour, and they let me go on with the Red Cross when I need to. But see, I don't cost them any money when I'm gone because I don't get any kind of extra. Just pay by the hour.
Well, I'd like to know a little bit about your experiences with the Red Cross. Now, did you start with that while you were in college?
Yes, I did. So while I was in college, I started going to camps every year. But where I got in with the Red Cross, when I learned how to swim, I lived at Langley, and the lake formed from Grand River to Grand Lake, and I'd go out in a boat with kids and jump in that lake. I didn't know how to swim, but I was a strong kicker, and I learned how to swim. And when I went to OSU in PE, I found out I'd learned a lot of things wrong. So I had to take my swimming all over again, and I ended up teaching swimming 30 years after that. And so, what was that first question you asked?
Oh, when you started volunteering for the Red Cross.
Yeah, so I went to a lot of Girl Scout camps and taught swimming and taught horseback riding. I taught square dancing on horses.
Oh.
And I taught modern dance, and I
Mhm.
taught tennis, and I loved it.
Mhm.
And then,
And that was mostly in the summertime?
oh yes,
Mhm.
that's what I do in the summer.
Mhm. Were you paid to do that? Was it a job for you?
I don't think I was ever paid for that.
Mhm. Just volunteer.
Volunteer,
Mhm.
and but it's quite an experience. You know, I went to Lake Cayuga, New York once for 10 months, 10 weeks. It was in the summer, and when I got back, they let my then boyfriend Mac come to the house and help serve, and then they had all the girls step out the kitchen so he could kiss me.
Oh. Well, then after you graduated from OSU, did you have a career?
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I got one of the last life certificates in teaching kindergarten through 12. And so I got married June the 1st and came right to Tulsa and had a job teaching. And I taught first in an elementary for only 6 months because the teacher came back. She just left for some reason. And I was glad. I was ready to quit the teaching profession. They didn't have a gymnasium. I had to have those kids in a cafeteria. It was awful. I'd go home so tired I'd go to sleep on the bus.
Oh.
And so then they sent me to Horace Mann, which is torn down now, which was a junior high then, and that was a lot better. And then they sent me to Webster High School, and I was there for 3 years, and I loved it. I love high school kids.
Mm-hmm.
And there I taught all kinds of PE. We even had the boys' gym classes come over, and we taught them how to dance. The waltz, the two-step. And I went to a place just last week, and our band played out close to where I went to taught at Webster. And there were 5 ladies there that were in my class.
Oh.
And they had them stand. And of course, I was only 5 years older than them, and believe it or not, some of them looked older than I did.
Oh, well, I believe it. You were young. Looking, yes.
And so I taught for 3 years. Then I had my first child, the Connie you just met.
Mm-hmm.
And then I stayed out for 15 years and had 4 children. And then I started substituting for 5 years. And then when my youngest one got in kindergarten, I went back full time in high school and ended up teaching 30 years. Retired in 1986.
Okay. Did you have, were there any professors when you were at OSU that really influenced you with your academics and your studies?
Yes, and there's one that I couldn't stand.
Oh, really?
Yes, you know what he said to me?
What?
I was having a hard time in humanities because I didn't read much when I was growing up, even though I was a good reader. And he looked at me and he said, "You shouldn't even go to college." And you know, that just made me more determined than ever. And I just showed that man. I would never say that to a student.
No.
Never.
I hope you didn't have to take him for any more classes.
I didn't. And yes, my physical education teacher was Valerie Colvin. Oh, everybody loved that woman. And I tell you, she was still going strong when she died. She was the best physical education teacher they'll ever have over there. She could do anything. Never married. But she knew how to teach, and all the kids loved her. And I ended up working for her the last 2 years in college, and helping set out the things and go with the kids that were bowling and a lot of things in her office I helped her with.
Mhm.
But she was definitely my best.
Mhm.
I really loved her.
Do you have any stories to share about her? Any specific stories or
Well,
anything that is just so memorable?
she was so limber that I never have been one that could do a lot of acrobatics. It just seems my body wasn't made for that. But she could just twist her legs and do anything. We all just, our mouth just flew open when we watched her. But she had, and I never will forget this, she was the kind of woman that could discipline you and you never get mad at her. One day, a bunch of us in PE were on a float at homecoming, and I was chewing gum. She just ate me out good for chewing gum. And boy, I never did it again. But I didn't get mad at her. She was just that kind.
Did you keep in touch with her after you graduated?
No, but I'd go see her every time I'd go back. Yeah, I sure did. She's just somebody I'll never forget.
And the Colvin Center is named for her.
Yes, isn't that wonderful?
Yes,
it should have been. Yeah. My modern dance teacher was Miss Levine. She was very different. But she knew her modern dance. And of course, I never had a dance lesson in my life, but I love modern dance because a lot of it, you can do what you want to. And I did have pretty good rhythm, so I did like it.
What kind of clothes did you wear to your classes?
Like I told you, I didn't have many, but I wore, when it was cold, I had a one-piece suit like I've seen some of the Army wear now, and several of us had those, and we would wear those to class. Usually we wore slacks all the time. Never put on a dress or skirt until we went to church.
Did you go straight from band practice to class in the mornings?
Yes, usually we did, because it was from 7 to 8, and I usually had a class right after that. Never had a chance to go back and sleep. And you know what? That era, most of the girls smoked to be cool. I never did because I didn't have the money, and I was sure glad. And but the girls would be playing bridge late at night, and I'd be doing something. I was a night person, and I'd end up studying sometimes all night long because I wouldn't go to bed until all the fun was over. And so I'd stay up a lot of times. That's where I learned how to drink coffee, to stay awake. And just whenever, especially when I was going to have a test in something, I'd stay up all night long studying for it instead of doing it early and going to bed early.
What were some of the other classes that you took? You told me about humanities, and of course you would have taken a lot of.
I had to take French, and I had to drop it. I loved it, but I did not have any foreign language in high school, none. And I loved it, but I just didn't have enough background in it. I just couldn't get it. And also, since then, I've taken several classes of Spanish because I've been to so many Spanish-speaking countries. When I was in teaching high school, I used to take high school kids overseas. Every year, I'd take them on spring break and in the summer. And I've seen almost every country in Europe, plus Japan and China and Jerusalem and Russia and the Scandinavian countries. Oh, it was fun. I said I did more counseling going over the ocean than I ever did at school. Kids loved it. And before the oil went out of Tulsa, we used to be the oil capital of the world here. Parents would send their kids overseas in a minute because I would tell them, I said, this is the best way you can spend your money because you can give them a car and it'll break down. You can give them jewelry, they'll lose it. but you'll never take a trip overseas. And all of my seniors would make A's on their English themes because they'd write about what they saw.
That's wonderful.
It's so educational.
Do you remember? Let's go back to when you were at OAMC, and do you remember any significant events or experiences that happened while you were there?
Yes. Bob Fenimore came, and he made national history in basketball because he was the tallest one that had ever played then on a college team, and they even had to move the goals up. They were so easy for him to make. And he was wonderful. In fact, those years that I was there, we would win in football and basketball and wrestling, every sport OAMC won in. And it was really, we were proud, to be from there. We've had a few bad years since then. But I want to say I'm very proud of that coach, the way he did the other day on television. We're all proud of him. If more coaches had that kind of nerve, they'd probably get more out of their team, because that not only said something to that boy, that said something to the whole team. They know now they've got a coach will always take up for them.
And you're talking about Coach Gundy?
Yes.
And
the boy.
Yeah, the news interview that he did.
Yes. Everybody watched that.
In reference to the quarterback.
And the writer, she got what she deserved. Besides that, she writes for the OU paper, so she shouldn't even said anything.
Well, I probably could guess that you've been to a lot of football games over the years.
Oh, my, yes. And my husband broadcast baseball for Tulsa Oilers for 26 years. I remember sitting on the roof out there when Connie was 3 months old on a pillow. And all of my kids have gone to ball games. Sometimes I'd see 3 because my 2 boys, when they got old enough, they played. So now I don't go to many baseball games. I don't like them unless they're really having a fight or something. But I used to know all of the players. See, that made a difference.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about was the Women's Athletic Association. I noticed that you were involved in that.
Yes.
And it looked like there was a large group of women.
A large group. We had a lot of good athletes over there. In fact, the girls' basketball team I was on, before I pledged AD Pi and then after I pledged, we were the first ones to play in IBA Arena on the basketball court, because we won all of our games because we had Bob Curlin's sister on our team.
Oh.
And she was like 6 foot. And then, and then when I moved into the AD Pies, we still won a lot, but not as many as we did when we had Mary Ellen on our team.
Did you play other colleges? Did you play games against other colleges?
No. No, we never did play. It hadn't started yet, playing other colleges. But we played, all the dorms and the sorority houses. That's what we did. And, we were so proud of that.
Well, did a lot of people come and watch your games?
Yeah, because it was just beginning to really be popular for girls. And if you had somebody tall like Mary Ellen, and, we played fast, and they liked to watch that. And, we had fun, lots of fun. And then, of course, I was the president of the WAA, and we played softball and golf. We had to do all that in our class. And bowling. Those were the main ones that we played.
So what position did you play in softball?
Softball, I was first base.
And what was your favorite sport out of everything? Was it swimming?
Basketball.
Oh, basketball was?
Yeah, because I started it so early, and I really knew it, and in fact, when I married and moved to Tulsa, I still wanted to play basketball. And there was a team here for women, but my husband didn't want me to play on it. So I didn't play.
Well, did women play, was it half court?
But it was half court, right. And we played all of the half, with the guards and forwards.
So were you
Forwards
a guard
at one end, I was a guard.
You were a guard.
And I loved that game. I used to dream about it
Oh.
even. And then swimming was second. But see, that kind of came later because I taught it so long that I taught little kids. I'd even go to private homes here and teach women who really wanted to learn but wouldn't go out in a class.
Okay. Well, I read in the paper, of course, that you've won a number of awards over the years. So I think I'd like to hear a little bit about some of the ones that mean the most to you. What is maybe the top three that just really mean a lot to you personally?
Well, I'd have to say that when they put me in the Hall of Fame with the Red Cross, that meant an awful lot to me.
And how many years have you been a volunteer with the Red Cross?
Going on 61 now. And that's the longest anybody in the state. And I don't know about national, but it's probably close to that. There may be... The fact is, there might have been somebody that long, but they're dead.
What was the last trip that you took for the Red Cross?
My last one was Miami, Oklahoma at the flood.
Oh.
Yeah, but I went to Katrina twice, went to Houston, and I went to Lafayette, and stayed in that big dome down there where they play basketball, and there were 7,000 people there, and we fed that many, 3 meals a day, and they did a good job. And of course, I go in mental health. It's my job to try to give those hope that have lost everything. And you have to have a license to do that. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I've kept that active ever since I retired from school. And it's most interesting. It really is. Here again, you talk to people one-on-one, and you learn a lot about them. I'm always supposed to, I can't think of the word, when people leave to go home, they send them in to me to, I want to say I can't think the name of it. But anyway, they tell me everything, what they didn't like about the job, how long they've been there, and who they were with, and I get some very interesting stories. It's interesting. Some men will tell me they've fallen in love with somebody they've worked with, and they say, I'm going home and I'm married, and she says she's going to call me. And it's just, but when you work with somebody a long time like that under our conditions, and they, you just learn to like people or hate them, one or the other. But they're just, people are so wonderful. They just tell you up front, and I said, tell me if there's anything you don't like about it, or you want me to say something to the upper echelon to make it better. I said, the only way I'd do that is if you'd ask me to. And so they do. They tell me what they think could be improved. I just love my job. It's very interesting. And I've been from the East Coast to the West Coast to St. Thomas.
Okay, so that's probably the award that means the very most to you.
Well, that was quite an honor. And then I also won the man that was CEO here for so long. They made an award in his name, but it's the most prestigious award you can win in this chapter, and I won that one, and I was really surprised because I just made a statement to him. They'll never give that to a woman. And that very year they gave it to me.
Well, let's see if I can see the name of that anywhere in here.
It's Prost.
William Price.
Wow, the William Prost Award. That's
Special
it.
citation for
Yes.
exceptional volunteer service. So you
Yes.
were the first woman to receive that award.
Mm-hmm. And I was. So I was very happy with that.
Yes.
And let's see, I was going to tell you about another one. I'll answer it. I want just a minute. Well, those two national awards. I want to tell you, the first one was the volunteer of the war, the hero, Ageless Hero Award that I won. Blue Cross and Blue Shield started that here, and a lot of people get it mixed up with the Red Cross, but it's Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And then they made it national. All states did it, and I was chosen nationally to win that one. And that's when they sent me to Chicago, and I got to see the elderly President Bush. And that was so much fun, and they were so nice to me. They even sent me the next year, and I got to see him again with his wife. My daughter had that picture. And so, and then they'd invite me every year to come back to the banquet. So that was a real honor. And then the other one, I want to tell you about that. I was the National Grandparent of the Year. And how this happened, nobody from here sent my name in. Nobody here celebrates grandparents. So I get this call from California. And this lady says, you've been nominated for Grandparent of the Year. And I said, oh, you must be mistaken. She said, no, and I'll let you know in 3 days. And so in 3 days, she called back and she said, you have got it. Well, what she did was read our paper here about my this other award that I won. And it told how many entries, like 1,000 entries were in that. And she said, you were chosen. And I said, are you kidding? And she said, no, ma'am. And so she and her husband came here and asked the Red Cross if they could have, I don't know what they called it. They invited the television and the radio, and they all took pictures and stuff. And they had the Red Cross served food, and they had my grandchildren come. And, you know, it's just such a shock to everybody. Some of my good friends, women friends, said, well, I'm a good grandmother. I should have gotten that. And they were, you know, giving me a hard time. But that is how I got that. And so this picture you saw in the paper this year, I was the only one that knew the history on that. And this dear lady in Kentucky had 15 kids. And her husband was a coal miner. And she just kept thinking that grandparents should be honored and kids should know more what they do and everything. So she goes to President Carter and gets him to sign it, a national thing. And that woman that called me was one of her daughters.
Oh.
And they came out here and did everything and gave me that big picture up there, see, with the thing underneath it. And I got a letter from, what's the man? I don't know, I've got it someplace. The man who writes such good books about children and youth. I can't think of it right now. That's what happens when you get old, honey. You can't remember half of what you did. But anyway, that was a real honor. You know.
Yeah.
And but my things that I've won through the Red Cross has just been wonderful. And then this last thing here in my city, that where's that thing of the year, Pinnacle Award. That's quite an honor to get that. And then several years later, they had another award from that. Can't even think what the name of it was. and they gave me something too, but it's a really honor to get that. I can't think of the name of it.
That's okay.
So anyway, I just have been very, very fortunate. God gave me the health to do all this, and I think the reason I had the health was because of my physical education and swimming. And this back problem that's hit me is very unusual. I started out with herniated disc in my lower back, and that was in 93. And I asked the doctor, I said, I've always taken exercise and everything. What's wrong? He said, lady, it's just from the wear and tear of life. And I said, I've given a lot of that. And then in 2000, I had another herniated disc, went up my back a little farther. And they put 6 screws in the first time, 4 screws the next time. Then I went to a pain doctor, and he put a thing in me the size of a pacemaker that has a thing that goes to your brain that tells your brain you're not having pain. Oh. Well, I could only feel it from a knee down. Then he cut me open and moved it up, and I could only feel it from here down. It never did touch my back. So I said, take all of the metal out, so I don't have any of it in me anymore. And I still had some pain. Took physical therapy, helped a little, but not completely. And then I fall on my back a week ago. And now it's my tailbone.
Oh, goodness.
But I just kept going through it all. I even went on Red Cross disasters. But as long as I'm able, I'll keep going.
Well, when someone mentions OSU, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, you better not say anything against it. And I was playing bridge the other night with some couples that were strictly OU, and I was just sitting there eating, just waiting. And they talked about every team. And finally, somebody mentioned OSU, and they made some silly remark about them. It made me so mad, I couldn't hardly finish eating. And I bit my tongue not to say anything because I'd just met some of those people that night. And it was a real good girlfriend of mine who invited me to play, so I was good. But it's nothing but good memories for me. Always good memories. And Mac and I went back to every game when he was alive. I lost him 6 years ago. I sure miss him. I tell all the men, you men are so important and all. They just stick their chest out. And most of them will say, well, you women are too. I'm waiting to hear that.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, are there any directions you would like to see the university go in? You mentioned earlier, I think before we started recording, you expressed some appreciation for some of the donors that the university has had recently.
Oh, yes. I mean, and when you give scholarships, that's just wonderful because so many kids can't afford college. They really can't now. Young people, even my daughters, don't even have insurance. It just bothers me because, boy, I have 3 insurance policies, and I couldn't do without it. And it's just getting really bad in the whole state. Young people just can't afford insurance. So I think we're going to have some changes, but I think a lot of changes are coming. It may even be near the end. Who knows? But
what other activities are you involved in? You're involved with your church.
A lot. I teach safe driving for OOHRP.
Oh.
Just taught a class last Friday, and that's a non-pay job. And I hate the paperwork in it. I don't like paperwork at all anymore after school business. And you, an English teacher, I know you've had it.
Yeah.
But I love the people when I get there. They're just wonderful and so appreciative, and most of them are senior citizens. It says you're supposed to be 50 and over, but it's not true. I can take any age as long as they drive a car, and you get your insurance deducted.
Oh.
So it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to last from 9 till 5. I usually let them out about 4:30.
Mm-hmm.
And I take goodies to eat in the morning, and I take goodies to eat in the afternoon because those people get tired.
How often do you teach this class?
Well, I used to teach it every month, but this year I'm teaching it September and October. This next one is my last one, and then I got smart and I said I'm not going to teach in November or December. They're too busy months. And then I said I'm not going to teach it in the summer because I may want to go someplace. So then I taught September. I start out September and October, and not going to teach in November or December. Ooh, thank you. I need something to crunch on.
Well, should we take a little break?
Yes, let's do.
Let's do. I'll pause this. And now we're going to start back up and get some more stories about OSU. And one of the things that I want to ask you about are some of the rivalries that OSU had when you were a student there, and some of the traditions.
It's still the same one, and that's OU. And talk about Bedlam when we play them. That's exactly what it is. And of course, when I was playing in the band, we would always associate with their band members, and they were really nice to us. But one thing we did, when they came to OSU, they loved to steal the bell out of Old Central. And if they won the game. And a lot of times they won the game, but not always. And then when we go over to their school, we'd steal it back. And that bell went back and forth, back and forth. That was the big thing of our time. And the kids, of course, the kids in the band, they would usually come over and meet us at halftime, and maybe they'd give us some pop to drink or something. We really were nice to each other, but stealing that bell was absolutely the biggest thing and the most fun. And I understand we have the building, Old Central still stands, but haven't they renovated it?
They are in the process of renovating it, yes.
Oh, yeah.
They're working on the foundation right now. And in another year or two, they will move the Honors College out there. Right now, it's located on the 5th floor of the library.
Oh.
And so that's going to be the home for the Honors College.
Now, what exactly is that?
The Honors College is it's a special group of students that qualify for that coming out of high school based on their grade point averages.
Oh.
And so very, very bright academic students who qualify for the Honors College, and they take honors classes each year, and then they can graduate, with honors.
Do they have classes in that building?
No, not right now. They're not.
Okay.
I think right now the building is closed.
Okay.
They have not had any classes there for a while, I don't think. There was a museum there for a while, a higher education museum.
I see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that building.
Yeah.
Did you have classes in that building?
No, we didn't.
Oh.
It was just kind of hands off. It was just we knew that that'll be there forever, and it's a special building.
Yes, it is. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. And it's across from the new Alumni Center. I'm sure you've been to
I've
the
been
Alumni
there,
Center.
yeah, and that's nice.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have nice exhibits.
And lots of good pictures there.
Yes. Yeah. Well, where were your classes when you were
Well, the names of the buildings, I'm afraid, have changed. Let's see. I had a French class. There were mainly the buildings in the center. What's the building called right across the street from Swims? Do they still call it Swims?
No, I don't think.
It's that place right there across the street from Joe's. What do you call it?
We have the Serotine Center, and
I know where the Serotine Center is. It's
Moral Hall.
Moral Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in the basement of Moral Hall is where I had my modern dance, Terps Korean.
Mm-hmm.
And then the building south of that, and I don't even know what they called it. It was right before you get to the fire station, was where we met with Miss Colvin in a lot of the PE classes. And of course, the swimming pool is in that old gym there. You remember that building there?
I don't remember the old gym. I don't.
There's an old.
They renovated the Colvin Center. I don't know if you had a chance to
I haven't been in it at all, but the old gym is clear over there next to the street, and that's where the swimming pool was.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I took swimming, and then I'm trying to think. Seems like Moral Hall, someplace. I took that humanities class, and then I had to take a history class, and I forget where it was. But mainly they were all in the center of the campus there. Mm-hmm. Didn't have to go off of the campus for anything.
Were the instructors strict?
Yes. Most of them were. Like I say, my PE teachers were even strict, but they knew how to handle kids better than a lot of teachers. Mm-hmm. Did you read in the paper where the girl, PE major, won the Teacher of the Year this year for Oklahoma?
I didn't see that.
She's from down south, I think Shawnee's where she teaches. And she did. I'm so happy for her. But, gosh, she gets a new car and lots of things.
Oh,
that's wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
And okay, that's mainly about the classes where I was. But I know the one that, like the modern dance class, I had to walk the farthest for because it was over clear across from where I lived.
What kind of music did you all listen to and dance to in your modern dance class?
We had the most wonderful band leader, Jimmy. He died. Oh, he's in the yearbook after yearbook. Why can't I think of his name? He was the one that could strut almost falling over backwards.
That was the director of the band?
No, he was...
he was the student band leader?
Yeah. And, everybody just clap when he'd start out on the field. Oh. He was so good. And he moved to California, and he just died about 2 years ago. Why can't I'll think of his name tonight? Jimmy. Anyway, we had, I'm trying to think of the bands that were so, Jimmy Dorsey. Yes, was one of our main ones, and we danced jitterbug all the time. Everything with good rhythm, we would dance. But nearly all of it was with the jitterbug music, the rhythm. And I loved to dance. Oh, I just loved it. And we had 2 people that everybody loved to watch dance. One was called Pee Wee. He was took care of the football team, and he was a little short man. And everybody loved him, and could he dance. And then Melba Osborne was the twirler in the band, and they danced together. And they got a good hand every time they danced. They could really dance. But Jimmy Dorsey and another one of that era, there were several, but we had a good campus band. And we were always tickled. We went to the old gym to have our dances. And everybody loved to dance.
Did you have dances after the ball games?
Not planned dances. We would have, before a ball game, we would have bonfires and all that kind of stuff. And but usually after a ball game, everybody was pooped, and they didn't have a dance unless it was a big one and we won it. That usually would call for some kind of big celebration.
Well, what was homecoming like when you were?
Well, it was wonderful. All of us went out to make a float. We'd work for days on those floats and all night the night before. And then, we'd decide who's going to ride on it and what the theme was and everything. And so we all look forward to homecoming. That's my oldest son, Larry. I've got 3 of my kids living with me.
Oh, you do? Uh-huh.
And I love it. Because you know
Oh,
what I
good.
told him? I said, I don't want to fall and lie there for a week and stink.
Mhm.
And I did fall the other night, and I was glad they were here.
Yes, uh-huh.
But,
So you had big floats that you worked on?
oh,
homecoming?
yes. And a lot of times we won.
Mhm.
We really did. And the kids, we were all so happy because we all had good themes, and everybody went out for the floats. They really did.
Mhm.
And those things take a lot of work,
Mhm.
And well, that's the main thing on floats. But
And now the house decks are probably the same amount of effort goes into those house decks that they do at walk around at homecoming.
oh yeah,
That's what you all did with the
we
floats.
did. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Well, and we'd also make a house decoration
Oh, did you?
in front in the
Uh-huh.
yard. So we worked hard for things like
Uh-huh.
that.
Well, you told me that you joined a sorority after you had already been at OSU. Was that unusual for someone to
Oh,
not
very.
join as a freshman?
Very unusual because, see, when I first went over there, first of all, I didn't have the money to
Mhm.
join a sorority. And I really knew nothing about them because we didn't have them in my little small high school.
Mhm.
And then, of course, I started becoming known a little bit by being in different organizations,
Mhm.
And I started finding out all about them. And it was really really a hard decision there at the last because I liked a lot of pie pies but what won my heart? I said to the 80 pies, before I joined, I only have one formal, and my brother bought it for me. And they said, don't worry, we got a whole closet full. You can wear any of them you want to anytime. And I thought, my gosh, if they're that good,
Mhm.
that really meant a lot to me.
Mhm.
And so that helped me make my final decision.
Mhm.
They really made me feel wanted.
Good. Who was your house mom? Do you
I can't remember her name,
Mhm.
and everybody loved her too.
Mhm.
They always do, and if they don't, they get rid of them.
Did you stay connected with the sorority after you graduated?
Oh, definitely. I was a state president for a while, and I was my president here in Tulsa, and held every office there was. And now we've got this at least 4 tables of bridge that plays once a month, and nearly all of us are from Oklahoma A&M.
Oh.
So we have a really good time.
Mhm.
And then we have our normal meetings on Saturday, and that's where more of the younger girls come in for the meetings. But we have a good group here.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, we do.
Did you learn to play bridge in college?
Yes, I did. Never did know how before. And now, it's going out of, the kids just don't know how. It's kind of going out of popularity. But it won't go out with us.
Who was the band director when you were in band?
Well, Hiram Henry. And he was the sweetest man. He really was. And then Max, before him, what was it? Mitchell. Max Mitchell was before him. And so I was there with him. And I remember one time he wrote several band songs. He came to visit us. Oh, he was well known. But I can't think of his name right now. But they were very good leaders. And Hiram Henry was there for a long time. In fact, I got to see him last year. Well, we celebrated our 100th anniversary with the band last year because I got a T-shirt. And he was there.
I think he still lives in Stillwater, doesn't he?
I bet he does.
I think I heard that. I
yeah.
haven't met him.
I haven't met him. Okay.
No.
Well,
Well, you told me that they provided the drum for you
that's
for
right.
band.
Mm-hmm.
Did they provide your uniform, or did you have to buy that on your own? Your skirt and your blouse?
They didn't provide anything. I think I had my own skirt and blouse, and that was it.
Did the ladies dress up to go to class?
No, they did not.
It was casual.
Yeah, very casual. Very casual. I guess, a lot of the boys had gone to war. And if it hadn't been for the Air Force being there wouldn't have been many boys around, see. And they lived in barracks, so that's why we had the fraternity houses to live in. So, no, we were very casual.
Well, tell me, there was a picture in one of the yearbooks of you and Mac.
Yes.
And he was kissing you. Looked like it was taken at night.
Yeah.
Tell me about that picture.
Well, we were dating then. And I don't know, we were having something at the sorority. I don't know what. And anyway, the guy at that time who was on the O'Colly. Do you still have an O'Colly?
We still do have the O'Colly.
Good. And he just happened to be there, and I think Mac was getting ready to kiss me goodnight, and he said, "How about you all standing over here in front of the window?" And that's when he did it.
Oh.
And I think the window said Merry Christmas, so it must have been at Christmas time. And do you know what? I've had to live that down after I started teaching school. My high school kids, boy, they let me know about that really fast, because I was a dean in the high school after I quit teaching PE, and I had to walk down the halls, and I'd say, "No PDA," because they'd be hugging each other in the halls, and that meant no public PDA, no public something.
Display of affection.
Display, PDD, what was it?
Of affection.
Yeah, of affection, that was it. And I caught a lot of them doing that. And so those kids, it doesn't take them long to find things like that out. And they really gave me a hard time. Because, Miss Creager, you used to kiss. And so we dated all that senior year, and then got married after I graduated that summer. And I remember he lost his billfold the day of the wedding, left it in a restaurant. He wasn't hardly nervous. And our dear minister let us use his cottage up in the mountains in Colorado for our honeymoon. Oh, we thought that was really special. And of course, you had to build a wood fire to keep warm, and that wasn't much fun for Mac. And I remember I burned the toast the first morning. I fixed breakfast, and I wasn't a very good cook. But we made it for 54 years.
That is something.
So, we did have a great marriage, a lot of fun, a lot of memories. And since I was in the school business and he was in the radio and TV business, we had entirely different friends. And that was interesting, too. In fact, I had a picture, my son's taking it now, of he interviewing Mickey Mantle. It was his first interview. And he went up there to his home up at Joplin, and he wasn't the easiest to interview because he wasn't a very good talker, but he didn't have to be. He was a wonderful baseball player.
He could sure play baseball.
Yes, he could.
Well, your husband played in some bowl games when he was on the
Cotton
football
Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. And he wrote for the O'Colly. And it's the funniest thing. His degree was in, get this, agricultural journalism. Very few have that degree. But he wanted to be a rancher when he went over there. And he got over there with all those farm boys from out where I lived. And he didn't know anything about the farm or ranch. And he ended up in journalism anyways. His first job was Oklahoma City, writing for a magazine, and interviewing coaches. And then he came right back to Tulsa. He just never did want to leave Tulsa. And that's where he really did a lot of interviewing and stuff. And it was interesting. He met a lot of interesting people, and we had a lot of fun.
How old were you when your family moved for your dad's job, when they moved from northwestern Oklahoma?
Okay, I was just starting to high school, and I graduated in 42, so go back 4 years. And I graduated when I was 18, I believe.
So you were out
18.
in that area during the Dust Bowl days?
Oh yeah, I was about 15. Yes, I can remember, because my first school was a country school a mile from home. And a lot of times we'd have a dust bowl going, a dust storm going, and they'd have to close school. And I'd get home and dirt would be collecting underneath the doors, just bad, and you couldn't hardly see a car in front of you. It was so bad, so bad. It was awful. And there's still a lot of wind out in northwestern Oklahoma. And then there's so many wheat fields. And then it got to where every year when it came time for Daddy to harvest his wheat, there would come a hailstorm the night before and ruin the whole crop. So he was just going broke, because that's what they lived on for a whole year. So that's when he moved us to eastern Oklahoma, and he was a carpenter on the dam.
Well, the farm that you lived on when you were younger, was that part of an allotment? You said part of the land run?
Yeah, it's 150 acres. And that's what my grandparents got.
Your grandparents did.
Where
were they from?
Well, I only knew them from Oklahoma. I think I don't know where my dad was born. My granddad would leave home and be gone for months at a time, and my grandmother would never know where he was. And she had 5 boys, and my daddy was the youngest. And so they didn't get much attention from their dad at all. But nearly every one of them were farmers. And I was glad I lived on the farm when I was a little girl. I learned a lot, but I never want to go back. Never.
Why is that?
To me, they look so lonely now. I don't want to live away from the city. I want to be where the action is. I can remember one time my daddy took my brother to the show, and I never got to the show, but I had a girlfriend there that day, and he didn't take me. And it made me so mad that I ran away from home. I ran into my grandmother's house. And by the time I got there, she was gone, and my daddy drove up. And he said, "Get in this car." Scared to death. I never did even get to see my grandmother because she was gone. He took me home. But it made me mad that he took my brother to the show and left me. He probably didn't have the money to take both of us. I want to tell you one thing while it's on my mind. When I went to college and I didn't have any money, and I wanted to join a sorority finally, no money. And so I called my grandmother and asked her if I could borrow some money from her. And so she called her sister, who was an old maid, lived in Kansas, and asked her if she could borrow some money from her. And so my sister hid money behind pictures in her house. So she reaches up behind a picture and pulls out $300 and sent it to my grandmother, and my grandmother sent it to me, and that's how I joined a sorority.
How nice.
Wasn't that something?
Yes.
I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
So, life has been pretty good to me. Pretty good. And I just got back this summer from a mission trip to South America, Quito, Ecuador. And my Sunday school class, in 5 minutes, took up a collection and had enough to send me, and it was over $2,000.
How nice.
So, see, I have a lot to be thankful for.
Well, what advice would you have for students at OSU now?
Well, I would say to really finish. And I would also to remember what they're there for and try very hard to graduate. Because nowadays I'm begging school kids to finish high school even because I have to tell them if you want to just work in a fast food store the rest of your life, that's about what it's going to be if you don't at least get a high school education. And for kids in college, I'd say, enjoy it. It's one of the happiest times of my life. But remember why you're there and do your very, very best, and it'll pay off in the long run. I've never wanted for a job, ever.
How would you like to be remembered someday?
That's a good question. I think one thing would be I was happy in spite of my adversities, not diversities, my adversities. And that I feel very lucky that I was able to have children because I feel sorry for people now who get old and don't have a family. And I just like to be remembered as one who loved life and loved seeing the world. And thank God that He helped me to see it.
Well, you had a wonderful, amazing life that's just rich and full of so many different experiences. It's just been a real pleasure to be able to interview you today.
Well, thank you. You have done a good job. I just didn't have any idea they were doing anything like this over there, and I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
It's
been fun and interesting just to talk to you.